and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, knitting bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, we are going to finally be able to talk about all the details of my Albina sweater. I kind of heavily modified it, although I did test it for Caitlin. I did change some things. So I'm gonna go through all of those with you, as well as share a brand new summer top cast on and updates on my shawl and dream sweater. So grab your knitting or crafting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what I am wearing, you guys. I'm so excited about this sweater. This is the Albina Sweater. It is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and I basically begged to be part of this test. It really struck me when I saw her version, which I will put right here. When I saw her version of the sweater, like all the possibilities just like popped into my head. I could imagine having the stripes all different colors and just knitting this 1,000 times because there's so many different combinations, and it's such a versatile sweater that I thought like I could go anywhere with it. So I was really wanting to knit this. I did do some major modifications and we'll talk about them, but let me stand up real quick and show you kind of the sweater on a body. So one thing I might do differently, first of all, okay. So this is a sweater. I'll kind of go through what I might do differently next time in just a minute, but I really like it. It hits, I would say right at my hip bone, and it is a drop shoulder sweater, and I did change up some things, but I will kind of go through those with you in a second. So I really like it. I really think it's a flattering style that will look nice on a lot of people. So what did I do differently? What didn't I do differently? Just joking. Okay, so this sweater is knit from the bottom up, and I typically knit a size 3 in Caitlin's patterns, but I chose to knit a size 2 this time because I wanted less positive ease, which is like, who am I even right now? Because I normally like a lot of positive ease, but I just thought, you know, I think I was going for a vision, which we can get to in a minute, but I really was like, okay, I think I'm going to go with less positive ease. So let me kind of give you some numbers just to throw them out there so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. So typically my like happy place for a sweater to fit is right around 40 inches. That gives me 4-ish, 5-ish inches of positive ease, depending on the day. But that's kind of, I feel like, always a good sweet spot. Anything in the like 40, 41, 42, up higher than 40 in those lower 40 numbers. Those are always like my sweet spot. So for this sweater, it is a 42¼ inch sweater, which translates into 107.5 centimeters. And I thought that was a good sweet spot. The size 3 was a 46½ inch sweater, or 118 centimeters. So they're not far off from each other, and for the intended purpose of the sweater, had I knit a size 3, it would probably look a lot more like Caitlin's looks on her. But I think I was going to want to try a few different things, and I knew I would probably knit this again. So I had in my mind a very specific picture of what I wanted the sweater to look like. And so in that picture, it was a little bit more fitted. So there is this design company called Lino, and they're based out of New York City. And I have always loved their sweaters. They're all basic sweaters, and they're all stripes. There's always a bunch of stripes in their designs. So they have a sweater called the Marin sweater, and I really thought it was kind of similar to this in look, and it's one that I had admired for a long time. So when Caitlin had this post on the Albina sweater, it doesn't actually, I mean, it looks like it, the shaping is similar, but they are different. They're not in any way like the same sweater. You definitely get different vibes from both. But I thought, you know, that might be a good jumping off point and my inspiration for the stripes and my striping. So for my striping, without giving away the pattern, essentially, if you want this same stripe kind of vibe, you're going to double the size of the stripes. When I did my swatch, I liked the stripe that was the thicker stripe, and so I decided to just make my stripes double the size. And that's kind of how I came up with this striping. The other thing that I did slightly differently was because my stripes are bigger, my bottom stripe area, I decided to make a little bit wider because I didn't want it to kind of get lost in this stripe. So I made it a little bit wider. And I also waited to start my stripe sequence on my sleeves a little bit longer, and I stopped short of my stripes. On Caitlin's, her stripes continue on the neckline, which has a beautiful effect and is very different, but I stopped before I did any neck shaping. And I would suggest, if you were going to do something similar, stopping 3 to 5 rows before you get to your neckline shaping so that it causes less disturbance to your stripes. If you pull on this too much, you can kind of see how that stripe kind of waves. So in order to kind of avoid too much waviness around your stripes, I would give a little space before your neckline shaping. Let's see what else. So the yarn I used was Illimani Sabri 2, and it is a worsted Aran weight. Like, it is a very thick, plumpy cotton alpaca yarn, and this is a DK weight pattern. So that is also why I have kind of a tighter looking fit, if you will. Like, there is still quite a bit of ease on me, but just the way that it lays is a little bit more structured than Caitlin's, which is like so drapey and gorgeous. And trust me, I want to knit the same one the next time. So I actually was thinking, did I make a mistake with my yarn choice? Because I knew I would get gauge. I wasn't sure about the fabric. I ended up liking the fabric, but I knew I would get gauge in this thicker fabric, and I intend to kind of use this as a spring, fall, evening sweater in the summer, and I think it will be perfect for that. It's a very comfortable weight, and because it's not like super tight, it has that breathability that makes it pleasant to wear, even I think when it's a little bit warmer. Okay, so with the striping sequence on the arms, I chose to start my stripes after the first arm decrease. And I really am happy I did that choice. I might put a couple pictures if I still have them, but essentially I had started as she had said in the pattern, which was kind of like right away you start your striping sequence. And it looked weird because I had done this, like didn't continue the stripes on the yoke of the sweater. And so that was looking weird. So I pulled that out and I started again, and then I made it longer, and that was too long. And so I felt like the sweet spot is really right after your first decrease is a good spot to start your stripes. It also kind of creates the yoke going down a little bit more effect on your arm, which is kind of more of the like drop shoulder look without, I don't know what I'm trying to say, without it kind of starting here and then like kind of chopping your arm in that way for this particular striping sequence. So I did that. And then on the cuffs, I also stopped short and had a longer black stripe at the end, which is my main color. So that's kind of all of the kind of changes I did. She had a really cute bind off, I want to say. It was the Russian bind off. Oh, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can see really quick. Okay, I'm not sure what it was. I think it was called a Russian bind off. I hadn't done it before and I really love it. I would 100% use it again. I think it's a really nice finish and I really liked how that looked. Hopefully you can see it. But yeah, I really love how this sweater turned out. And I feel like it really is just the perfect striped sweater. Now, what I would do differently next time. I do think I would knit the same stripe sequence as she did. And I would use definitely a more flowy fabric, if you will, and probably do a size 3 just to get a totally different look, because this is definitely a more like quote unquote fitted look, if you will. It's not like hugging my body tightly, but it is certainly not as oversized as hers, and my arms are like not as oversized. I will say with the arms, you have to do a rate of pickup that's not like every stitch for the arms. And I do wonder, and I really wonder about this. I kind of was going to just pick up every stitch, which would have given me a little bit wider sleeve. I think for this purpose, it looks nice, but it is something to consider if you want your sleeves to look tighter or looser on the rate of pickup when you go to knit your sleeves. Because I feel like you can sort of, once you finish the body, try it on and see like, oh, am I gonna want like a little bit tighter than it's feeling right now or what? So I did pick up the correct amount of stitches for the arm, but I did have to do a rate of pickup and not every stitch. I feel like I picked up, I don't know, I would have to go back and look, but I want to say I picked up every like 7 of 8 stitches or every 5 of 6 stitches, something like that. So I wasn't picking up every single one. And so it's definitely could have been a wider sleeve had I just picked up every stitch. So there's that. Let's see. The gauge is 19 stitches per 28 rows. It's a nice gauge to knit in. It knit again super quickly. The stripes help it go by super quickly. I think this would be so cool in a spin cycle and a main color, or even like use up minis and just make every stripe a different color. You could play with this in so many different ways and make it look so cool. Some people did a plain one. I think that looks really nice. So there's so many things you could do to like customize this sweater to your purposes that I think it's like such a great staple for your wardrobe. This is knit on a US 5 or a 3.75 millimeter, and I did use that. I did end up using that same needle for this sweater. I do want to say that sometimes her patterns, there's a big range of needle sizes within everyone knitting, so make sure you just gauge swatch. I am kind of coming into a realization that at least her current patterns, not all of them, but most of the current ones, I'm able to kind of knock out the same gauge as she is on the same needle. So I do swatch, but I feel like I'm getting into that like kind of similar gauge as her. I hope this isn't looking weird right now because I'm in Portland, Oregon, and it's been raining super hard all morning, and it was sunny for a minute, and then all of the clouds came, and now it got really dark in my house. So I'm hoping that doesn't look weird. Who knows? We'll find out together. In post-editing. Okay, so that was my Albina sweater by Caitlin Hunter. 10 out of 10. 11 out of 10. I would highly recommend knitting this. I really enjoyed the process. It was so fun. Because it is drop shoulder and you're knitting from the bottom up, you have a bunch of stockinette, then you knit flat for the front and back, and then you do a 3 needle bind off at the top and then pick up stitches and knit in the round for the sleeves. So that's kind of the construction, and then you finish off by picking up the neckline and knitting that. And I really just like this like 1x1 rib followed by knit rows, so that you have this like kind of little bit of a roll collar and then the nice ribbing. I like the combination. She does it on a lot of her sweaters, and I think it really is very, very nice finish to make with those. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I told you everything. If you have any questions or I left anything out, please feel free to leave a question in the comments below and I'll try to answer it for you. So the next up is that I've been working on was my Audria shawl, and oh good, I was afraid that I was in the middle of a row and it was going to be kind of a disaster, but it's not. So the Audria shawl, and I'm sorry it's like so crammed on this needle, but we'll try not to knock anything off. Thanks. Okay, this is a pattern by Isang, and she goes by Isangknits on Instagram. And she put this pattern out and I was just immediately obsessed. It has a lot of stockinette, it has lace panels, it has some color work, and it is just all over fun. I am currently using Qing fiber yak silk in the colorway Moody, held with Knitting for Olive in the colorway Powder, and what is that color? I don't know. Oh, it's called Name That, I think, or Name Me by Lola Bean Yarn, and it's in her yak base, and I can't think of the name. It's a cute bean name. I'll put it in the description below, but it's really a fun one. And then it's held with yarn Nouveau Black Coral. So I'm using all kinds of yarns in this, but I'm loving how it's turning out. I was asked a question, and I'm gonna pop it up right here. It was by J Gerakios. I'm so sorry. I'm 100% sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but I want to answer your question. So you were asking, you had said, another great podcast. Your effervescent sweater is so pretty. Thank you, by the way. I also love your Audria shawl and would love to cast one on, but I've never done color work knitted flat. Do you have any tips for that? Yes, I do. So there's a couple of things. When you look at a color work chart and you're knitting in the round, you look and read it from the right to the left. I had to think about that for a second. Right to the left. And you just repeat that with the pattern in the round, and that's how you do it. So when you're knitting flat, you knit from the right to the left, and then you knit from the left to the right. And I was preparing for this podcast, and now I forgot my one piece of kind of show and tell. So I'm gonna go grab that really quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went and grabbed my Sarin shawl. This is a pattern by Florence Sperling. And as you can see, it has color work, knit flat, and here's the thing. So I do feel, probably like most people, that if you knit something flat, if you knit something in the round in color work, it doesn't always matter if you have a color dominant hand or not, which basically means it's going to push one color forward. So let me show you an example of that, because I did it on one side and one side I didn't. Okay, I think it's on this blue, or this pink and green section, which I apologize if you're color blind. This is gonna be really hard for you. But okay, so if you look at these two sections, one, the color work really pops out more than the other one. So this one I'm talking about, and then this one below. So in the bottom one, see, it's a little bit more, you're seeing that pink pop just ever so slightly. And so that was my dominant color in that one. And I believe in the top one, I was just like all over the place and not really thinking about it as much. So what color dominance is, essentially, just to clarify in case you don't know, what color dominance is the color that you're holding closest to your project is the one that's going to show through your project the most. So it is like on this one, let me show you. It's more apparent here. So let's look at the back of this. So on this one, see, you can see the pink a little bit more on the back, and this one you can see the green, which means the pink is closer to the front of the fabric, and that's what you're seeing more. So I hope that kind of is reading correctly so you can see it, but that's gonna tell you how you're holding your yarn is gonna inform how your color work looks. So when you are knitting flat, I feel like this is more important sometimes than when you're knitting in the round, because I feel like your tension between knits and purls is gonna be different a little bit, and keeping in mind which one should be forward, even according to you. Maybe the designer doesn't say, but maybe you're like, you know what? I want to make sure that the red pops, so I'm going to make sure that I'm holding that closer to the front. And how you do this is by making sure that your dominant color is under. So when you're holding, however you hold your knitting, when you're holding your knitting, whichever one is consistently going under the other color and then continuing on is going to be your dominant color. Whichever one is going over is going to be your non-dominant color. So when you're knitting flat and you're purling, this is, to me, especially important. Keeping the one closest to the material that you are knitting is going to be the one that's going to be color dominant, and also making sure that it's going under kind of the other. When you're in the process of it, when I say under, I'm pretty sure you'll see what I mean. But that is one tip. Another tip, it might sound silly, but because when you're knitting flat, instead of reading from right to left, on the right side, you read from right to left, and on the wrong side, you read left to right. And this can be tricky because you're so used to going just one direction. So I do little things like put an arrow on every other row. Normally they're marked, but if they're not, I put an arrow. So I'm like, go this way, go that way. Like little cues, put a little highlighter on it so that you're really drawing your eye to go the correct way. Really trying to read your knitting as you go helps. But I hope that helps in giving you some ideas of like how to do the color work flat. I know it's not super in depth, but I'm hoping that kind of gives you a little jumping off point. And if you're interested in this, I'll link it below, but this was featured in Lino magazine. I just don't remember the issue number. I can put that, but it's also a very cute shawl. Okay, so on the Audria shawl, the last time that I podcast, I think I had just started this color work section. And so I did a lace section and then the rest of the color work, and now I'm back on to like stockinette knitting. This is getting slower because I'm obviously in a larger amount, larger stitch count, but I'm also having to purl every row. So that's kind of time consuming. And so I've kind of like slowed down on this quite a bit. The good news for me is that there's only one more color work section, and then you have, I think, another stockinette, and then you have the ribbing bind off, which is probably a gazillion stitches, so we're not going to even focus on that right now. We're not going to go there. But I'm really excited for the finished product. I really think this is such a beautiful shawl, and I really think that Irene just like killed it on this one. It's so good. So that's my Audria shawl, again, by Isangknits or Irene Sang. Is it Irene or Eileen? I think I did this last time. Hold on. Let's not find out for sure. I think it might be Eileen, and I was calling her Irene last time. Oh, I'm 100% wrong. It's Inez. So I'm so sorry. It's Inez. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, I lost light. Sorry. It's Inez Sang. So I'm so sorry. It's not Irene at all. I don't know why I keep thinking it's Irene. It's Inez Sang. And she makes beautiful, beautiful patterns. So I highly recommend going and checking them out. And yeah, hopefully I will finish that soon. It's probably going to take a back seat. I'm going to show you why in a minute. So since the last time that I podcast, I was talking about, oh, I want to knit all of these raglan tees for summer, and I'm so excited because then I won't have to purl because I'm purling this project and all the projects all the time, purls. So that's great and all, but when I sat down to cast on this project, I realized I did not have a 16-inch 1.5 US 1.5, which is, I don't know what size, tiny. So I didn't have that to cast on to do these raglan sweaters that I had in my mind. And I didn't want to like, use a different needle and have it be incorrect or all these different things. So, oh, did I also mention, sorry, I'm all over the place. This shawl is knit on a US 3. So just appreciate how much I love this shawl because it is in a teeny tiny needle and it's crazy. I decided to, because I didn't have the 16-inch needle and I didn't want to like make a mistake by being, I don't know, lazy is the right word, but just casting on with something else or all the different things, I decided to just do the Cumulus Tee, which is by Petite Knit, and it is a V-neck tee. And part of the reason I didn't want to do this was because of all the purling, because I'm purling everything right now in my life. So I was trying to avoid it a little bit, but I realized that I do kind of want a V-neck top, and I didn't want to like have to wait for a needle. I really wanted to just cast something on right then. So it is what it is. It really is what it is on this one. But good news is on my Cumulus Tee, which is just black and it's not gonna be too exciting on camera, but I'm already done with all the flat knitting. Just finished it. So today I'm gonna start knitting in the round. We're done with purling. All done. So I made it. I made it through this top. I can understand why people kind of complain about this part of the tee because it's no joke. I have 400 plus stitches on my needles right now, and it's knit on a US 2.5, I think. It's knit on a US 2.5 or 3 millimeters. So that is why. It's 400 stitches, tiny needle. It has taken up a lot of time, but it's also been really nice knitting. I feel like I'm really getting in a good rhythm with making sure that I'm not rowing out and all the different things. And I really am looking forward to knitting in the round with this. And then I think I'm gonna love this project. But when I was kind of on the fence, I looked at a bunch of Ravelry projects, and people did say they absolutely loved the tee once it was done, because it was kind of a lot to knit. And I understand that now, just because that was a lot. Like that's a lot of purling. It's a gazillion rows. Like it's a lot. But that part's done. So only smooth sailing from here. And I'm excited to wear this. I really wanted just a basic tee that I made myself, and I think it will get a lot of wear. The yarn that I'm using is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. And let me tell you, oh, and it's in the colorway Coal or Coal, depending on if you're buying it, where you're buying it. Let me tell you about this yarn. I've been knitting it, and immediately I had like an inch of this tee done, and I was already like, what else can I make with this yarn? And I need to go find it right now. It is amazing. I have really enjoyed the hand feel of this yarn. I have used other silk yarns, not 100% silk, and it just hasn't been as fun, or it's like super slippy. This is not that. This has a really, really nice feel. I think it's going to be amazing to wear, and I really like knitting with it. Like, sorry to say like so many times. I love knitting with it. It is so pleasant. A pleasant surprise. I was really worried that it was gonna be a tiny needle and it was gonna be a lot of purling, and then I wasn't gonna like knitting with the yarn, but thankfully the yarn kind of saved the project in terms of pleasure, and I really have enjoyed it. So I probably will get more Knitting for Olive yarn. I had a bunch in my cart, and then I hit pause because I'm gonna look over here. My stash is over here, and it's staring at me right now saying like, you don't need, like you have some summer yarn you should knit with that you bought last year. So I feel like it's bullying me a little bit, but we'll see. So all of that being said, I have actually been happy to have that as a project. I'm really, really happy the purling is done on that one, because the shawl has been a lot of purling. That was a lot of purling, and that brings me to our third project. So again, that was the Cumulus Tee, a pattern by Petite Knit. It's top down, it has raglan increases, and they're just a like one stitch and then a raglan, so it's a very thin raglan. I think it will look really nice. In the finished project, I had shown other tees that had a thicker raglan, and once I started knitting with this, I actually was happy that I went this way, because I think with the delicate fabric, it's going to look really nice with that kind of thinner raglan. So I'm happy with how that project is going, and I'm actually so excited that we're gonna be knitting in the round. Yay! My next project is the Dream Sweater. If you are new here, let me just run by it real quickly. It is the Pina Colada sweater. This is a pattern by Zukaite, and it was featured in issue number 45 of Pom Pom magazine. And I should mention, if you're seeing this shortly after this podcast is published. If you go over to Pom Pom Magazine right now, they're having a sale on anything in print that they have left if you're a U.S. resident. So if you're a U.S. resident and you want various publications, they're basically giving them away. Not really, but it's like 75% off. Okay, so this is the Pina Colada sweater by Laura Zukaite. And I first saw this at Flock Fiber Festival last year, and I fell in love with the sample. When I saw this in the magazine, it wasn't the same. Like, I didn't get that same, like, oh my God, I want to knit this. And I think it's hard to tell for a couple of reasons. One, this is a very sheer fabric. So you have a sheer fabric with these thicker stripes, which is all intarsia. And you are basically holding two threads together and then doing intarsia with the lines. So I'm holding Isang Alpaca 1 as my main color in the colorway 31, I think, or 30 or 31. What is it? 30. It's black. And then I'm holding it with a sport weight yarn from Yarn Nouveau, and it's the colorway Sapphire. So I've gotten more done. This feels like, man, this is gonna take forever because I have to knit. This is the front and the back, I think, are the same. Well, I'm not sure, but I think this is the front. I actually don't know. I don't think it matters really for a while, but you knit the front and the back and the sleeves all flat, and then you seam it together. It's taking longer than I thought. I really want it to be done so I can wear it, but I keep casting on everything else, so it's not getting done. But there is also a lot of purling in this one because, let me think. The diamonds are reverse stockinette, and then the stripes are stockinette. So it gives a really nice effect. It's gonna look really nice on. It's just taking some time. So it is what it is. I will say I'm using Boye bobbins, B-O-Y-E bobbins, and some of them are my grandma's, some of them are new. And that's all I have to say about this sweater right now. I really just need to sit down and work on it. It is a project I can only work on at night, and I can't really take it with me. Although it's easy to memorize, I feel like the bobbins tangle and get all weird, so I would rather not like travel around with it. So that's kind of been taking a back burner because I can't take it easily with me, which is partially why my Cumulus Tee has been getting more love, just because it's a more portable project at the moment. Like the shawl isn't really portable. It kind of is, but I have a big cone of mohair, so it just makes it less portable. But the Cumulus Tee is my like portable project at the moment, which is why it's getting more love. And also I really wanted to get to knitting in the round. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, so yarn festivals are going to be starting soon. In Seattle is the, well, first in Oregon we have the Black Sheep Festival, which is the end of June. I think it's next weekend. No, it's 2 weekends from now. And it is a like fiber spinning yarn festival, and it's located, I believe, in Albany, Oregon. So I'm gonna be going to that, and I'll try and take you guys along with me. But the other, so I've been kind of keeping that in my mind as a festival. There's Flock Fiber Festival in Seattle that is in August. And then in Portland, we have the Sacred Sheep Gathering, Sacred Sheep Festival, in November, and it's now 3 days instead of 1. So those are like all of the ones that I will be attending and that are coming up soon. And so again, if you're attending, let me know. Let's meet up. But that's kind of like what has been on my mind. And because of that, I've been thinking, okay, what am I gonna wear? Because that's what we all think about, right? Okay, what are we gonna wear? So what am I gonna wear? What am I gonna buy? And so I have been trying to get these. It all of a sudden hit me like summer's here. I need to make all these summer tops for August for the Flock Fiber Festival. And also I need to start thinking about what it is, because if I am going to buy any more fiber or yarn or any of that, I would like to have a little bit of a plan for it, or even like I'm going to get this for a main color of a colorwork sweater is more helpful than just like wildly going crazy. With that being said, after I'm like, I'm not gonna buy yarn, I bought some yarn. So Ritual Dyes, my local yarn shop, carries Wandering Flock, and they had sent out in their newsletter that they had received Wandering Flock's cotton lino yarn. This is the colorway Burnt Sienna, and it is pretty orange. So in their pictures online, I would say it definitely looks, and not just Ritual Dyes, like Wandering Flock also, it looks darker. But it is kind of an orange color. I went to the store to pick it up and they had all the colors there still. And so I kind of was like looking to see what would work best for my skin tone and what I was kind of thinking. And I ended up going with this Burnt Sienna, which was my first choice. It's a really cool yarn. So let's talk about this yarn because it is unlike anything that I've ever encountered. So it is a sport weight yarn, 100 grams, 328 yards, 300 meters. It is made from 35% organic cotton, 30% mulberry silk, 20% linen, and 15% baby alpaca, which is like a wild mix. Wandering Flock, Geraldine of Wandering Flock, has all of their bases milled for them. And so it is special to Wandering Flock. You're not going to find this base anywhere. But here's the cool thing. So I'm hoping this picks up on camera, but if not, I'm going to kind of talk you through it. So you get the sheen of the silk kind of going in there. You have like the strength of a plant fiber with the cotton and the linen, but you still have a lot of drape from that silk and alpaca. And it's crazy because I have experienced that with alpaca, you get a little bit of a halo. This yarn has alpaca, and even in the like white yarns, you're getting a little bit of like fuzz on it, just the time, ever so slightly. So this has that alpaca, and you're getting like some shine, but also a little bit of halo with this yarn, and also drape. It's like, it's wild. So I was watching Wandering Flock's Instagram Reels or Live or one of those, and she had said that she had bought however much yarn of this base that they were going to have for the season, and then that was it. So it is a limited, I guess, resource in a way. They probably will have it again years in the future, but for now, like what they have is what they have. And so if you do find it and you're thinking about it, I would snag it. They have updates. Check your local yarn shop if they carry Wandering Flock, but that's kind of just a little bit of advice. So of course I had to get it. I don't know what I'm gonna make with this yet. I have some things in mind and I'll kind of talk it out with you and you can give me some feedback on what you think if you're interested. But there's a few things. One of the standout patterns right now is called the Limetta, and this is a DK pattern. It is made for Woolfolk, the yarn company, and it is for their base Woolfolk straw. The gauge is 22 stitches and 27 rows. And it's a textured tee. It kind of, if you look at the pictures of the tee itself, it has like some halo and something about it. I could imagine this with like tight little jeans, looking pretty cute with the big oversized top. But then I have thought, okay, it is such an interesting yarn and something I've never worked with that it really has been hard for me to like pinpoint what I'm thinking. So another idea that I had was Hinami by Knitting for Breakfast. It is a kind of, I want to say lacy yoke and a little bit of texture, and I think it would look nice with this yarn. I imagine it would be nice and drapey, and so it could look nice. That's one idea. And then the third one, kind of the third option, is the Hashibami by Ririko, and I really love this yoke. I think this yoke is gorgeous. I would hope that this yarn would have nice definition and it would like shine. And I would probably go into this sweater making it shorter sleeve, 3/4, or not going long sleeve. So that's kind of my ideas with this yarn. It could change any moment. There could be a new pattern that pops up and I'm like, yes, that's it. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. If you guys have any thoughts, feelings, or care, let me know what you're thinking. And I will include links to those patterns below as well. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to kind of quickly mention is that Ozetta came out with a pattern called the Lake Stripe pattern, and I thought this was so special. So this is called the Lakes Stripe Tee by Ozetta, which is Haley Smedley, and I really like this tee a lot. I feel like she has two versions of this tee. She has the striped tee and then the Lakes Stripe Tee, and there is a bit of difference that I wanted to kind of point out. So in the Lake Stripe Tee, there is a gauge of 26 stitches per 40 rows, and it has an intended ease of 1 to 3 inches. So for the Lake Stripe Tee, I would choose to do a size medium for that tee, and that would give me a 3 to 4 inch positive ease. And on the Lakes tee, it would give me, if I did the same size, it would end up giving me 6 to 8 inches of positive ease, depending on how all of that went out and if my gauge was correct. So I think for this one, I feel like I like the stripes, Lake Stripes tee a little bit better. I also, it looks like in the different photos, and I'm sure the stripes are part of it, but it looks like the fit is a little like more fitted in the sleeve. And so there is just a few slight differences. I would be really interested to see if I'm correct because I only have the Lake Stripe tee pattern. I don't have the other pattern to exactly compare, but from what I can tell, the ease is certainly different in between the two. And to me, it looks like the arm circumference is also different. In the Lake Stripe tee is a little bit closer fitting than the Lakes tee. So if you were in between the two, I hope that helps. It looks like the Lakes tee is going to be a little bit more oversized than the Lakes Stripe tee. So that was a really interesting pattern that I think looks really fun. Again, it's another stripe, so I would be really interested to make it, and I am really wanting to cast that on. So those are kind of my like patterns that I've been kind of excited about that have just come out, and I'm really very excited to like get some of these summer garments going. That is all the knitting I have for you today. I believe Tour de Fleece is starting. I'm not participating in that, but I'm really excited to see everybody's spinning projects. It'll be fun to watch as a spectator, and so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I have just been catching up on reality TV shows and enjoying that. So that's kind of all I've been doing on my downtime. It is a very busy time of year. My oldest just had a birthday. It's going to be Father's Day, end of school, and then my husband's birthday. So it's all like within a couple of weeks time frame. And so that becomes, this is a very busy time of year. So I hope that I will have more time to knit, and I will kind of pop in some of the balloons that I did, because I always do this crazy balloon thing in our hallway for birthdays here. So that's what I've been up to. Balloons, birthdays, end of school, trying to get everything done, wrap up loose ends, and celebrate. So until 2 weeks from now, if you enjoyed this video and we're not yet knitting besties, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video, because it tells YouTube that other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Till 2 weeks from now, make some yarn magic. Bye!